Hey everybody, hi group over on the private page, and hello to everybody out in Kids Health Revolution regular page world as well. Welcome to another series of the School Snack live video series. We are back in the Kids Health Revolution kitchen where, as I always say, it's the headquarters of our revolution in taking our kids' health back. This is where all the good stuff happens. This is where you are cooking up one simple, easy to do recipe at a time that is going to make a difference for transitioning your child into a healthy lifestyle. So today we have a wonderful recipe. Most kids love the fruit roll up or the fruit to go, the fruit leather, right? It's something that they gravitate towards. Lots of kids really like it. Hi Rebecca, nice to see you. Glad you could join us. So lots of store-bought varieties on this one, and some of them aren't so bad, but the majority of them are made from fruit concentrates rather than whole fruits, and a lot of them also come with a fair amount of preservative, right? They have to have some preservative in order to keep the shelf life of the product. And when it comes right down to it, these store-bought versions, even the really healthy ones, I'll admit that I buy the Veggie to Go brand occasionally, they're not cheap. They're almost $3 for one little bar, right? Now, we can do this at home and make the same thing with more nutrient density, just as good a flavor, save ourselves some money, and make sure that we're getting whole foods into our kids rather than just the juice concentrates that the store-bought brands are often made from. So today we are using blueberries and we're using peaches. So I'm using fruits of the season because I happen to have a lot of these on hand. I bought 10 pounds of peaches at the farmer's market the other day, which sounds like a lot, but it actually doesn't end up being that much. And some of them are starting to get a little bit, you know, bruised, so the kids get a bit picky about eating them when they look like that. So this is a great way to use up the fruits of the season when you've got lots around, because my wonderful girlfriend just brought me back a whole bunch more peaches from her trip to BC, so I need to be using those too. So we're going to make a peach and blueberry fruit roll up today, and we are using the whole fruits, peel and all. So we're getting all the fiber in there, we're getting all the phytonutrients from these beautiful skins on the peaches, and we're getting everything that this fruit has. We're not just getting the sugars from the juice. So this is a truly whole food snack for your children. And I'm going to talk about a couple of different things that you can do to change this up as we go along. Course. So we're going to start, if you want to measure things out, we're looking at about 3 cups of chopped peaches. And I have roughly estimated that out to be approximately 3 medium-sized peaches. And I'm not chopping them really precisely here, but just getting, you know, a rough idea of how much you want in. And the only reason that it's a little bit important to measure is so that you know that you have the right amount to make a fairly thin layer when you spread them out. Of course, you could make more and then just use 2 pans. So we're calling that 2 cups. And we'll do one more here. I'm going to pick the more bruised option, because again, you don't even notice the bruises when it goes into this. And this is something that maybe the kids might not eat. Even if you slice it for them, if it's got those little brown bits on it, sometimes I know my son can be a little bit choosy about that, a little picky, doesn't like to see that. So instead of wasting them, you like this. I'm going to use another couple sections of this one because it's not quite as full as I'd like it to be. So 3 good sized cups of peaches, and that'll depend, you know, the number of peaches you use will depend on the size of your peaches. But roughly, it's about 3 to 3.5 small to medium-sized peaches. And I always throw in a pinch of salt, that nice sea salt or Himalayan rock salt, because it, of course, punches up the flavor a little bit. So those peaches just go right into the blender, and we're going to turn the blender on. Couldn't be easier. Going on high here for just a sec. Prepare your ears. Okay, and you just want to blend it until you get the skins nice and blended in. So you know you have a few little sort of red pieces. My blender is dripping in there, and it's perfect. It makes a prettier texture, I think. And then we're just going to take a cookie sheet. So I have a large cookie sheet here, just lined with parchment paper. And hi, Jennifer. Nice to see you. And we're just going to pour this out. Now, sometimes I get fancy with this, and I make sort of shapes and decorations with the different colors. But just for efficiency's sake today, I'm just going to pour it out onto my parchment paper, just like that. We don't need to rinse out the blender. You can just go straight on. And then I'm going to take a little spatula and just make sure that I spread this out nice and evenly. So the trick here is that you just don't want to have bits that are super thin and bits that are quite thick. Otherwise, you're going to end up with some really crunchy, crispy bits, as well as some bits that aren't drying quite enough for you. So if you have a dehydrator at home, you can certainly do this on your dehydrator trays. You don't need to use a cookie sheet. That works just as well. Okay, so that's our peach layer. Simple, right? Couldn't be easier. Now we're going to move on to our blueberries, and we're going to sneak in some nutrition. Of course, I like to sneak stuff in whenever I can. You know, I always talk about how it's important for our kids to get used to eating foods in their natural state, so actually eating the greens when they look like greens. But heck, why not, you know, take every opportunity we can to sneak stuff into them. So these are just mixed green, and it's about 1 cup, roughly, a nice big handful. This is optional. So if you have a child that's just transitioning out from packaged foods and they're really super picky, they don't really like to eat anything that doesn't come in a package, and they're a little skeptical about you making homemade fruit roll-ups, in that case you might want to skip the greens at first and just go with the straight fruit until you get them on board, until they taste it and they go, hey, that's not so bad, I quite like that. And then you start sneaking in the other little ingredients, and then they won't even know it's there. Right? So sometimes we got to sneak up on them a little bit. 2 cups of blueberries. Blueberries are a great fruit. They're low glycemic, high in fiber, and they've got all kinds of phytonutrients because of this beautiful dark color. So we're going to put in 2 cups of those. Again, a little pinch of sea salt to top the flavor. Now, again, adding sweetener in is going to depend on your child and where your family is on their whole food journey. If your child is just switching over, you're probably going to want to add in a little bit of sweetener. If they've been doing this for quite some time and their palate is more accepting, then skip it. So I would add in a good sized teaspoon like this. If you need more, add a little bit more, okay? Just help cover up the taste of the greens in there for now. And then slowly start to cut back on it. I'm a big fan of phasing things out, right? Make them palatable when you're first starting out, and then slowly start to cut back as your kids are getting more and more used to this whole food lifestyle. Absolutely doable that way. Okay, that's everything we need in there. And we're going to go on high again. Prepare your ears. This one sometimes requires a little bit of coaxing, unless you have one of those beautiful high-powered blenders, which I am going to get for my next birthday. I'm going to either ask for it or I'm going to buy it for myself. This one has done me very well. It's absolutely not necessary, but I see what can be done with those ones, and it does make things a little easier, I think. So here we go again. once it gets blended down so you have a little bit of liquid in there, it goes a lot quicker. And we're going to let this one run for just a couple more seconds because with the greens in there, you want to make sure it's really well blended in. And as well, the skins on the blueberries, you want to make sure they get ground up as much as you possibly can. Now I see I have a question here, so I'm just going to see if I can actually read it from here. I usually make rhubarb and strawberry together because we get a lot of rhubarb in the summer. Yeah, that's beautiful. I've just started growing rhubarb myself in the summer, but that's perfect. Rebecca, I wonder, do you add sugar to yours, like honey or anything like that, or are you able to just do straight up rhubarb and strawberry? Love to hear about it. And rhubarb is, you know, a really great local sort of fruit. Is it a fruit? I'm not even sure what it is, but it is really great because it grows here in Alberta so well, and we can get all kinds of great nutrients from it because it's so local and easy to grow. Okay, so blueberry goes down into the pan. I think everybody can see this. And I'm trying to pour it out as evenly as I can, but as you can see, I sort of got it a little thicker at one end than the other. It's okay. We'll just use our handy spatula now to sort of just even that out as much as we can. Now, the other thing that I was going to suggest that you can do, and I'll show you the finished product of this, is in order to sneak in a little bit more fiber and even more nutrient density, some healthy omega fatty acids, you can actually add chia to your fruit roll-up. So you can add it just like this in the thin version, or you can make them a slightly thicker little patty as well. And those are really good. And I came up with that idea again from a packaged product that I found, a new product at Superstore. It's just dried fruit and fruit juice concentrates and the chia seeds. And my son loved them. So I thought, well, hey, why not just add that in? So I'll show you those in a few minutes. And you would just add a couple of teaspoons of it into this recipe. And you don't have to do this. I'm just trying to be fancy, I don't know. Just getting some sort of fun, groovy lines going there, bringing the two flavors together. I think it looks very pretty. We've got the beautiful contrast of color and all that gorgeous nutrient density from the whole fruit in there. So this is going to go into the oven on a low setting. So I put it in at about 130 or 140, and that cooks in there for about 4 to 6 hours, depending on how thick your fruit layer is. And you could go lower. So if you want to keep this totally raw, you could absolutely, in your dehydrator or on your lowest setting in your oven, put it in at just 110 or 115 and keep it completely raw. It just takes a little bit longer that way, and that's totally okay. So we're going to set that to the side. And I'm going to show you the finished product and then a small confession. So I don't have very many here to show you, and that's because I tried to rush it a little bit. But anyway, here's just a blueberry side. And what I like to do, you often see the pictures of them rolled up with a little bit of parchment paper. It looks really cute, and it's a great way for them to be transported in the school lunches or the camp lunches, even when you're traveling, because they don't stick together so much. So if you have the patience to cut out little pieces of parchment paper and just roll them up that way, it's a great way to keep them from sticking together. Other than that, I normally will tend to just throw them into, wrap them in a piece of parchment paper, a larger piece than this, and then put them in a plastic baggie. And the reason I put the parchment on is just to protect them a little bit from the BPA's in the plastic baggie. Okay, so this is an example. We've got mostly blueberry flavor here. We did get one with the peach and a little bit of blueberry on it. It looks quite nice. Now let me grab my little baggie because I tried to rush these the other day when I was making them. I looked up a recipe on, I think it was the Food Network, had a recipe that you could make these at 200 degrees and it would only take 3 hours. And so I was kind of in a little bit of a hurry. And so I thought, well, let's give that a try. Well, it didn't work so well. They separated, the two layers separated from each other. Some of them, as you can see, are fairly flexible, but we've also got some really crunchy little bits in here as well. So the good news with this here is if you do screw it up, because we all screw them up sometimes, you know, we forget it in the oven. I have done it where I've put it in super low in the oven on like a really low temperature, like 100, and left it overnight, and then left it even in the morning because the morning got too busy, and it was in there for probably over 12 hours and it became very crunchy. It's okay because you know what, it still tastes good. So it's just like chips. So you kind of cut it up into little rough bits and you give it to them and say it's fruit chips, and they'll still eat it. My son really likes those crunchy little bits. Sometimes he likes them even better than the chewy stuff. So you really can't go wrong with this recipe. That's my point here. So if you try it and something doesn't turn out, just roll with it, right? The only thing that you can go wrong with is if you take it out too soon and it's still too sticky, so you can't peel it away from the parchment paper. So you want to make sure when you're cooking it that when you touch it, it's not packy, it's not sticky on the top anymore. Then take it out of the oven and let it cool, peel it right off. And I use a little pizza cutter to cut it. Lots of times I've seen people use kitchen shears, a good sharp knife, whatever you like, just to make strips, or you can make squares, whatever you like, whatever sort of shape you like. Hi, Vivian. It's wonderful to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so let's talk about these guys. These are the chia ones. Now they do have, you know, they look a little bit different. They're not quite as colorful and pretty, but they still have a really nice flavor to them. They have that nice chewy sort of texture, and we've got in all the fiber and all the beautiful omega fatty acids by squeezing in a little bit of extra nutrient density. So that's another option that you could play with as well. And one last thing that I would mention with this recipe is if you make a huge batch of it, so let's say you have tons of peaches that somebody has gifted you and you need to use them all up, another great thing to do would be to make a batch of your fruit roll-ups, a couple batches of those, and then take these different purees and put them into an ice cube tray. Put an ice cube tray, no, I don't. Just pour them into an ice cube tray and put them in the freezer, and then you've got really easy go-to things to use for making smoothies. And it's a really great way to get your kids making their own smoothies, because all they have to do is pop out these nice little frozen fruit bits, throw them in the blender with a little bit of coconut milk, and Bob's your uncle. He actually is my uncle. But great, right? Great way to use up all these beautiful seasonal ingredients, all that beautiful nutrient density in a form that we know that our kids are going to love. So if you have questions, please make sure that you post them in the comments below. I will scroll through and answer any questions that come up for you. If you want a copy of the recipe to download, then make sure you go on over to our private Kids Health Revolution Facebook group. It's a private group, lots of great conversation going on over there, moms helping each other out, parents who are on this path, who have so much wisdom to share. I know that you do. It's really a great space to connect with other people, and you can get all of the recipes for the school snack series, download them straight off the Facebook page, or I will also make sure that you get them directly into your inbox as well. So head on over to the Kids Health Revolution Facebook private group, and also make sure that you are a member on the website. So it's www.kidshealthrevolution.com, and there's all kinds of other recipes over there for you. I have 20 fabulous freezer recipes. There's a leaky gut quiz. There's a foods cheat sheets list. What else have we got over there? We've got a natural solutions blueprint, your step-by-step action plan, all kinds of good stuff that's going to help you just take those steps, step by step, in getting your kids to the place that you want them to be in improving their health, because that's why you're here, right? That's what this is all about, is helping improve your children's health. So I'm so glad that you tuned in and spent a few moments of your Thursday afternoon with me, and I look very forward to seeing you again next week. If there's something that you would love for me to create in a gut healthy, whole foods way, please send me your ideas. I would love to work with them. Take good care, everybody, and we'll see you very soon.